this one. So you give your name there, or you want them to sign here? Okay. He will get your name, and then when... Yep. Time to get going. No? 3 minutes. Don't we usually do 2 minutes?
Okay. Absolutely. Whatever
All right.
the pleasure of the council is.
You will have 2 minutes to speak. You'll have 2 minutes to speak. Thank you so very much. And our first speaker, please state your name and then get going.
My name is Wayne Orrell. I'm an attorney in the local area. My sons attended Mary Mumford through 5th grade. My wife is a school teacher. And I've known Henry Marsh for many, many years. He's been a family friend. He's been a personal friend. And he's been a tireless public servant for me in the community. Having personally known Henry, I can tell you that there's no one from Richmond that has given a greater sacrifice of himself over a multitude of decades than Henry Marsh. And so I can think of no better name befitting a school in the city of Richmond than Henry L. Marsh. I would thank you for your time. I would thank you for your consideration, and I hope you do consider him. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next.
Hi, I'm Megan Jackson. I'm a teacher here at George Mason. I wanted to suggest the name Ethel Bailey Furnham for consideration. The park where the new building is being built was named after Ethel, and I think we should continue her memory with the new building. I was also researching George Mason. I saw that our media center and kindergarten wing were named after Henry Marsh in 1980, so I thought it would be fitting to continue that honor by naming our new media center after Henry Marsh, so both people are memorialized. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Oliver Hill Jr., and I've known Henry Marsh most of my life. So I'm in favor of naming the school after Henry. And you all know the history. He went to this school. He was from this neighborhood. His family was from this neighborhood. His children went to this school. And I just think it would have an amazing impact on students here if the school was named for someone that they could aspire to, that came from their same beginnings. And if you think about the history of Richmond from the late 1960s through the early 2000s, no one has had more civic impact than Henry L. Marsh. And usually I'm very reticent to talk for my father, but I would say that if he were here, he would definitely put the weight of his reputation behind naming the school after Henry L. Marsh. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Nadine Marsh Carter, and I'm here in my capacity as a resident of the 7th District, but also as a representative of the Marsh family. Our family is so honored and humbled by the fact that the school system would even consider naming this school after my father. I don't want to give away my age, but 40 plus years ago, I walked to this school to attend elementary school, as did my sister, all of my aunts, my uncles, my father, my mother. So our connections to this building that's now George Mason run deep. Candidly, when we attended this school, despite the great effort of our educators, it was run down then. And the books were so worn that they come from other parts of the neighborhood. So I'm very thankful that the city is now investing in creating a building that's equal to the buildings in other parts of this neighborhood. Our kids from this district deserve no less. And I think by changing the name to Henry L. Marsh, you send another message, not only to the kids, but to the parents who use this school. You're sending them the message that they would be in a building that is beautiful, that they should learn in, but also that children from this neighborhood, children who may come from challenged backgrounds, children who may come from disadvantaged financial situations, can also be leaders. That children have a role model who was able to overcome the challenges and odds and succeed when he started right here at this school. So I think we have an opportunity by naming the school to tell kids that despite a poverty background, despite your race or ethnicity, you can be a leader. You can become a civil rights advocate, you can become an attorney, you can become a mayor, you can become a state senator, you can be whatever you can be. When you walk to the school, you have just as many options. And with the investment that this school is making, we're presenting a real opportunity to send that message not only to the children and family from this district, but also to our entire city. You know, we are educating a new leader, a new generation of leaders. And it's our responsibility as leaders to set the example that's obtainable, that's realistic, and that represents them. And so I hope, sincerely hope, that you would consider naming this building after Henry R. Marsh III. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Ben Ragsdale. I first met Henry in 1964, early in the year, and we've been friends and collaborators ever since. I met Henry. He had just, along with lawyer Sam Tucker, gone to court and won to open the Prince Edward County Schools after they had been closed for 5 years. And that, of course, is the most well-known example of massive resistance. And no one fought massive resistance like Oliver Hill's father, Samuel Tucker, and Henry Marsh, integrating over 50 school systems and handling national legislation that had an impact on school desegregation across the country. I could say many things. I was fortunate to be privy to the early work of the Crusade and many of the things that Mr. Marsh and others did during that period. But let me hasten, and to save time, I wrote it down. This is the point I want to make. Henry Marsh was one unique leader in a group of heroes and heroines who turned America upside down, making it a place, though still far from perfect, that is radically more open, radically more fair, and where there is radically more opportunity than ever before, thanks to people like you. We talk a lot these days, particularly here at George Mason, about founding fathers. Well, Henry Marsh and his peers were the founding fathers and the founding mothers of the new Richmond, the new Virginia, and the new United States of America. Today, as Henry often says, there is much more to do. The coming years need similar radical change. Please name the school after Henry Marsh. Show the world the difference that one man or one woman can make. Show that we know the struggles of those who have gone before, and that we have much work left to do. Put the name Henry Marsh on this building so people will always remember the intellect, the hard work, and the courage that it takes to make change. We can remember and we can challenge future generations to complete the struggle. We can keep the dream alive. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Ingrid Addison. I am a community member here in the 7th District. I am also formerly a Communities and Schools site coordinator here at George Mason for the last 4 years. My daughter I spoke the last time, I was carrying her, is here with me tonight, and we are zoned for the new George Mason Elementary School. I am in support of the name Church Hill Elementary School. The name Church Hill is often used to describe both the specific historic district and the larger general East End neighborhoods such as Union Hill, Chimborazo, Fairmount, Peter Paul, Woodville, etc. You may have heard the saying, a city on a hill cannot be hidden. Similarly, a school on a hill cannot be hidden. A school on a hill is a bright, shining light, a beacon of hope, and an anchor of strength. This would be Church Hill Elementary School. Patrick Henry first gave his speech at St. John's Church and said the famous words, "Give me liberty or give me death." The name Church Hill Elementary School reminds us to continue to fight for what we believe in, and I believe that the students who would attend Church Hill Elementary School would live into that name and would be the light that our city needs. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is William E. Jackson. I serve as the senior pastor of Fourth Baptist Church. I represent a number of persons, members, who in the past attended this school, but also some young people coming up who attend this school now. One of those persons that comes to mind is a young lady who is going to become soon a member of our church. She came forward for baptism. Her name is Shakira Bagat. She's 8 years old, and she sings in our youth choir, and she is a bright, shining light. You know, I want that light to continue, and I am rising in support of naming this school after such a distinguished person as Henry L. Marsh. I believe that would be no better name for that, for a freedom fighter, for one who's fought for liberation, and someone who young people can look up to. So I rise in support of the naming of this new school, the new George Mason, or the new building, in the name of none other than Henry L. Marsh. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Laco White. I'm a former employee of Mr. Henry L. Marsh, and I'm here to support renaming the school in honor of Henry L. Marsh. I think it is befitting of someone who was inspired to bridge relations all across Richmond, and he is inspiring to our children. I know when my children were small, I was just an employee there, but he inspired them to go on and do better, and they've done that. It's good for the children to have a modern day hero and be able to say, my school is named after someone that we can truly look up to. When I told them that I was coming out here tonight, they was like, Mom, speak up for us because we really like that idea. They're grown now. But I have a granddaughter that's in high school, and she too was very excited over the renaming of a school of someone she can identify with, someone that she can look up to, and someone that she feels that even though she doesn't know him personally through her grandma, she knows the good works that he's done for the city of Richmond. I thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Herb Walk. I first talked to Councilman Marsh back in the early 70s. I happened to find out on a Friday night that I was president of our civic association, and the Saturday morning they announced they're going to try to put something in the middle of our neighborhood, and we needed to talk to all the council members. Councilman Marsh listened to us. Did not realize all the things that Councilman Marsh had done for me before that, because I heard massive resistance. I grew up in Norfolk, and my high school, Norview, was one of those first ones closed. So I didn't get to go to my high school for the first year. When I did get to go in 1959, I saw that Councilman Marsh, who's 10 years older than I am, just got his law degree. And he went about trying to stop the massive resistance movement. And what a thing he did for the state and for our area. So he's done so much for us. And I got to meet Senator Marsh, I guess about 40 years later, and we've become very good friends. And I highly recommend that you take a current living person and name the school for them. He's done so much for our area. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Robert Barnett, and I'm from Hanover County, and I stand to support the naming of the school Henry L. Marsh. I first met Mr. Marsh when I ran for the House of Delegates in 2009. He gave me some good advice, how to talk to people, respect people, and to give them your honest opinion on the local issues. I also watched Councilman Marsh, and even later how he handled himself in council meetings, very diplomatic and very professional. But what I want to emphasize most is that Hanover County wouldn't be, their school system wouldn't be where we are now if it wasn't for Henry L. Marsh bringing a lawsuit to compel Hanover County to complete the Brown versus Board of Education. And he did that with his brief. And the county decided in order to continue to provide education, they would allow African Americans to enter the school. But if it wasn't for Henry L. Marsh, we wouldn't have had that opportunity. So again, I support the naming of this school, Henry L. Marsh.
Thank you.
Good evening, distinguished members of the School Board District 9. My name is Michael Newsom, and I am the president of the Virginia Union University National Alumni Association. And on behalf of the thousands of Virginia Union alums from across the world, I stand in favor of the petition to support the school being named after Henry L. Marsh. Senator Marsh was born in this neighborhood, right down the street at St. Philip's Hospital, which at the time was a segregated hospital. He went to church in this neighborhood. He was educated in this very school. He's a proud graduate of Virginia Union University. He's a civil rights icon, and the exploits will fill a book. His value and his worth to the cities is undeniable. And to name the school for a civil rights champion, a public servant in this city, the former capital of the Confederacy, would do honor not only to Mr. Marsh, but it would do honor to the city of Richmond, to show the world how far we've come, so that this school could truly be that light, that shining light on the hill that was spoken of earlier. So again, on behalf of the alums of across the world, we wholeheartedly support this resolution. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Wayne Powell. No, probably most of you don't even know me, but I grew up about 6 blocks from here, and I met Henry about, it's been about 8 or 9 years ago. But I grew up here in Richmond and used to eat crickets up on Chimborazo Park. And as I asked Henry when I spoke to him recently, I said, you know, I grew up in Churchill. I was trying to show my, you know. He said, well, I was there. I said, I never saw you around. Of course, he was a little bit older than I was at the time. But anyway, what can I say about Henry Leander Marsh III? He carried the name of his father and his grandfather. Lost his mother at 5, was divided from his father for several years, came back to live with his father here in Richmond. And his father actually, after the family was reunited, I think it's important to talk about fathers and mothers and grandfathers. He decided to go to college and get a degree. Education was one of his main purposes in life, to show Henry L. Marsh III how important that was. And of course, a lot of the things that have been said here tonight we all know about, but I think losing your mother at 5, that forms you. Being separated from your father until you're 11 years old, that forms you. And it made him a leader. As a matter of fact, I noticed all the leadership positions, including being elected 10 times as a senator. I mean, these are amazing things. He testified when it wasn't popular to testify back in 1956 about the massive resistance, which was about to be passed by an all-white legislature. And we ultimately know what happened to the people in Prince Edward County and all over the state. So given that background, he stood up, he fought for what was right. Not what was right for African Americans, but what was right for all Americans. A man who graduated in 1956 from college, law school, Howard University in 1959, and then in this country where he did not have the rights he should have, he served his country in the United States Army. And as a veteran myself of 30 years, this is a man who not only stood up for what was right for African Americans and all Americans, but he defended this country when the rights that he tried to exercise overseas, he couldn't even enjoy back here at home. There's nothing you can say that is enough of a superlative about the Henry Marsh that I came to know when I ran for office several years ago. And he was a mentor to me. He was an example to me. And again, I grew up when a lot of people that looked like me were saying, who is this guy trying to make all these changes? We like it the way it was. Well, let me tell you something. The way it was not the way it should be. It's a lot more the way it should be today. And hopefully with people like Henry Marsh around, it'll be better. I noticed when I came in a sign near the road that said, try to be the change that you want to see in the world by Gandhi. Well, the change that we need is to change the name to Henry L. Marsh III, because everybody should see that name when they go to school, and there ought to be a mandatory, what do they used to call them when you go into the auditorium? Assembly. It's been a long time since I was in high school. But anyway, there'll be a mandatory assembly just to describe why the name of the school is Henry L. Marsh III, because he is a man among men and among people, and he's a great American, a great patriot, and we need to celebrate that with the new school. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jonathan Stubbs. I'm a teacher, I'm a preacher, I'm a lawyer. I'm also a person who has had the great honor to edit the autobiography of Oliver W. Hill, as well as be the co-editor of Senator Marsh's memoirs as well. I teach at the University of Richmond School of Law. I've been teaching there for 30 years now. And I'm standing here tonight in favor of renaming the school after State Senator Henry L. Marsh III. Many of the reasons for doing so have already been stated. But the primary reason that I'm standing here is because Senator Henry L. Marsh stood for, and he stands for, liberty and justice for all, for every person. When he came to George Mason Middle School almost 75 years ago, he talked to the principal, Mr. Bright, and Mr. Bright urged Senator Marsh to get an education and to get it good. And Senator Marsh took that to heart. And he has fought since the time he was a young man. As a high school student, he was head of the NAACP. He was on the school newspaper. In college, he was president of Virginia Union University. He testified before the General Assembly there when the General Assembly tried to institute massive resistance. There he met Oliver Hill Sr., and they became friends. And then they also became law partners. He continued his fight for justice. He tried to mold the law in order so that the law would serve justice. He actually made the law as a state senator. And today, there is no better recognition for this school and for this community, for this school and for this community to recognize this school as a Henry L. Marsh III middle school. It should be named after him. Elementary school, okay. Well, pardon, what can I say? Thanks for the correction. I appreciate that. I received that in the spirit that it was offered. But it ought to be the Henry L. Marsh III Elementary School. And I'm here to recommend that most highly, and I know that you all will do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Thomas Francis, a lifelong friend of Senator Marsh. As kids go through school, they go through a process of learning about leaders from around the world through the centuries. We have the opportunity for the kids in Richmond to be able to write a theme or a term paper about a person that is still alive who can actually come out to the stage, sit on the stage, and tell the kids about his experience. And this would not only help him, but it would be a situation where kids would be inspired to say, well, if he did it, I can do it. If you recall, the young man was in President Obama's office, and President Obama bowed down so the young man could touch his hair to see that he had the same kind of hair. This is an opportunity for us to show the kids in this community and throughout the city that, yes, I can be something. I can actually do the things that this young man has done. And I call him a young man because he still thinks that he's a young man. But I want to thank you for having this session, and please do the city a favor and name the school after Senator Henry L. Marsh. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nichelle Ford, and I'm the assistant principal here at George Mason. I apologize if I don't look like it today, but we were off today, so I'm a little dressed down. So I think that I'm also coming to speak to you as not just an employee of George Mason Elementary School, but I'm speaking to you on behalf of I'm an alumni of George Mason Elementary School as well. So I went here, and I think that all I can think about as a little girl growing up in Richmond, born and raised right in this neighborhood, from 2 years old to 18 when I went away to college, was about the people like Senator Marsh and Willie Dale, those people that were on city council, and Lucille Brown, all of those people that set great examples for us. And I actually remember seeing how well, even if down to their dressing and how well they dressed and how well they carried themselves. And whenever we saw them in public, they always spoke with us and shook our hands and made us feel like they were perfect role models for us, especially Senator Marsh. So I think that I stand here and thinking that he is deserving of a school to not to memorialize him, but a school named after him would be great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Gary Gunter. I am also here to support renaming the school after Henry L. Marsh III. I've known Henry for about 5 years. I met him when I was working at a state agency, and he was on the commission or the board as a commissioner. So the first reason I say the school should be renamed to Henry L. Marsh is because of the work he's still doing. When I met him, it was just a brief conversation, but he struck up a relationship with me and started to pour into and mentor me, where I am now involved in politics. And so because he's continuing to inspire people like me today, I think we should rename the school after him. Number two, I think he's still doing a lot of work like that nobody knows about or will ever know about. And so if we don't recognize him in a grand way like this, we'll never be able to recognize, I think, his full potential of not only what he's done in the past, but what he's doing today. But the third reason would be the first time we went to lunch, a gentleman stopped us outside and walked up to Mr. Marsh. He was a white gentleman. He looked like he was maybe in his 60s. He had on a lumberjack type shirt. And he walked up to Mr. Marsh and he said, Mr. Marsh, you and I might not agree on a lot, especially when it comes to politics, but I just wanted to come shake your hand because of what you've done and how you've done it. And I think that broad respect that his name carries is the third reason we should rename the school after Henry L. Marsh. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak to the renaming of this school at this time? We're here till 7, right? We'll be here until 7. So if anybody else comes, if you want to get on your phone and say, you need to come on down here now, we'll be here until then, okay? And I would sincerely like to thank all of you who have come out this evening to share your thoughts and experiences with us. It's been really nice to hear all the nice things said about Mr. Marsh. Not all of our hearings are this positive, and it's a real pleasure to hear all these really good things about him. Thank you very much.
I have. Yeah, she's gonna want to see. You right on it.
Speaker.
Good evening. My name is the Honorable Joan T. Mims, former school board member, and also a former regional chairperson of school boards for the state of Virginia. And I'm here in support of the Honorable Henry L. Marsh III renaming this great new George Mason School in his honor. The Honorable Richmond Public School Board members, you have a task to do as you took your oath. Do you hear that knocking sound? Somebody's, hush, shh, shh. Somebody's calling a name. They're calling Henry L. Marsh III. Henry L. Marsh III? Yes. He was a civil rights champion in Richmond, Petersburg, Farmville, Amelia County, Atlanta, Charlottesville, Hanover, and the list goes on. Do you not know that this public servant and lawyer was here at this school years ago? This newly built school is replacing the old George Mason School. I'm sorry. His family is still in the area. His family members were here probably 3 generations. They were born in the house, they lived in the house, they had fun. Henry attended school here through the 5th grade. The principal, Dr. Joseph Bright, was a sole principal until his death. Parents, community, and unity prized their school. Nothing but the best teachers and learning took place. Totally dedicated teachers, strong family, strong, kind, protective leadership they learned. The custodian even kept the floors so shiny, he would often say, "Wow, I can see your smiling face as you come to school." That means the custodians were also a part of the curriculum. Curriculum is everybody who touches the lives of children. They felt good about coming into a nice, clean school. They built closely. And by the way, I too lived and came to George Mason. I'm very dear here. I lived on North 27th Street. My mother was a teacher of the second grade, along with a lady you may heard of, Miss Wynn. She never had children, but she was on that team. The early life of Henry Marsh. Born during the Great Depression, Marsh began his daunting journey in life. Climbing has been no crystal stairway for him. Numerous splinters, holes, nails, scrapes, and other kinds of deferring breakdowns were in those steps. His mother passed away when he was only 5 years old. She passed away, leaving 3 siblings, the oldest 6 years old. There was no hospital for black, or they call them their Negro families, to get medical emergency, and no ambulances services to get to what they call St. Philip's Hospital. See, that was a wing of MCV Hospital for the blacks. Big room, and you had lots of sick people in that one big room. St. Philip's, you couldn't get there. Churchill, as you know how we're located here, was isolated. Leaving from Richmond to downtown, you had to go across called the viaduct. And there was a streetcar that would go there. You would get off midway the viaduct and ride on down on the elevator if you wanted to go over to downtown area or where MCV Hospital was. But remember, MCV Hospital will not treat you if you were of color. His father also worked hard. He waited tables in the city of Richmond 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. Well, this family had close unity, and that was paramount. So Marsh was raised by his aunt and uncle in a rural South Side area after his mother's death, in a little county called Isle of Wight County. That's ISLEWIGHT. Entering the Isle of Wight County, he will stop at what we call the Tynes Corner, but it's very unique. All 4 corners have the name Tynes, 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 Tynes. So you know if you had a driving class, the first one who would enter the corner would be the first one to leave. This courtesy still works today. Oh my goodness. Now you think about this. His aunt and uncle took care of this baby. He was only 5 years old. It's time to go to school now. So going to school began, and Henry walked to school with all the other children. He walked 5 miles one way, 5 miles back, passing 2 other schools that were not open to his race. In that school, it was 1 room, a wooden school, one teacher with 70 children. After 69 comes 70 children. The textbooks were delivered that day. He was so excited about going to school for the first time. Well, they were delivered, but they were torn, they were dirty, they were marked up, they were discarded. They were called the old books that the white children had in their schools. Very dirty. And he passed walking by those schools. This first week of school is believed to have propelled Henry L. Marsh III to overcome obstacles. This is a baby in a way. Also, he was staying focused on his learning. He was keeping his eyes on the prize of graduating from high school and being on the dean's list and finishing his studies. He wanted to be a lawyer. So he kept his eye on the prize to give him the energy to go forward. Passing the Virginia bar, which is said to be the most difficult bar exam in the United States, other than New York City. The Honorable Mr. Marsh stayed strong. He stayed strong, he worked, he sacrificed, he had perseverance, and that paid off. It says, you deserve this new school to be named in his honor. The Henry L. Marsh III voice of pride is earned. It says, Henry L. Marsh here, the Americans who knew of him, he touched the lives of people in China and Africa. He went to a lot of places in his career, and the school board members here just think, we have an opportunity. You know, there's an old Chinese proverb that I like. It says, opportunity is rare. A wise man or person would not let it pass him by. School board members, I beg of you to think of what he has done that was so unusually great. Remember, without the nourishing mom holding him the first day of school like moms do. So here we are. We Henry Marsh today with those opportunities. But I would like to say something. In his whole early life, the hurdles were there, as I mentioned, but he moved on. Also, when you're looking at that Chinese proverb, Henry Marsh had the opportunity to do the right things in school. He also was amazing, had an amazing life as a civil rights champion, a public servant, and a lawyer. When he says a public servant, the word servant is the key. When he is serving, you don't get paid. So his life was given all the time. This school sits right almost in his backyard, doesn't it? That family house. Now his daughter, I saw her tonight, Nadine, and she and her family live there. This is a rock, the strength of the community. It has always has been. I think it's more applicable that you consider all the way with the love people have given to this school and the thankfulness to rename it after the Honorable Henry L. Marsh III. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do I ask for questions or comments? Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, it's more than my pleasure. It's more than my pleasure. That he works. This is not for the name of the school, but I have met him all the way across the country because we're working for a cause. I'm not a lawyer, but as I travel to work for the cause of civil rights, I got a little nickname. If people will see me in the northern part of Virginia, they'll call me, I'm Rosa Parks of Virginia. They say, oh, that's Rosa Parks of Virginia, because I put my hand on the ball, and I always did that. So as we travel all over the country, it made it kind of nice. And also, the school board members, I honor you because you have an opportunity. If you went out aware, they had state, regional school board members. I don't know how many of you are aware of that. But because of that opportunity that I was voted in for that, I had 21 different school divisions, such as Amelia all around, even the close by ones, King and Queen County, Hanover, and they're the ones with the money who didn't want to have any federal dealings in their pockets or in their designs. But from that point on, I became a lobbyist for the state, for the school boards, and train. They train you. You don't have to work. They even tell you if they say these words, da 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 da. This is what your response will be. I mean, they had to train. So we got a chance to go to Congress, and from there, that's where you lobby in Congress. And from there, they put me on a team, a national team. And that national team, I had some from Albuquerque, New Mexico, all around, New York City. And we talked about issues. I was part of the No Child Left Behind to pick it out and tear it apart and say what's not right about it and why aren't more deserving children receiving benefits. But the best thing, the most amazing to me, was when I had presented it as a lobbyist to a congressional person. As I left the room, I got a call. The secretary, I said, my goodness, the secretary's running after me. Well, you know, you gotta get cleared to get into the Capitol building, and your name has to be approved. And that was okay, because I knew I didn't have any crime against me, not even a parking ticket. So somebody said, oh gosh, you're clean as can be, you don't even have a parking ticket. I said, well, I don't have money to be paying extra parking tickets, but here I am in the opportunity. So if you want to welcome that opportunity to do something like this, it's no pay, it's just service. So I met Henry somewhere on the line like that. He wasn't getting paid either. So come on, you know, we just keep going because they always have a little reception for you. So I showed him how you can really have a nice little lunch, just be available to sit and talk. But that was, I just wanted to share that because I know how you work hard, and it's fun. It's fun. It's fun. Okay.
Thank you so
You can say
much.
get out because I know you have a long day. You know, somebody, well, thank you. I'm going to just cut that off. Okay, it's a pleasure. Thanks for having me.